Again, exercise is simply a way of you voluntarily subjecting your body to hardship for the sake of making yourself better. It's a tool that has essentially been given to us to allow ourselves to kind of like voluntarily subject ourselves to hardship. And here's the thing: if you try to avoid it by not doing anything, especially living in a society like ours, the truth is you're going to be subjected to hardship at some point, but it's going to be something that you don't choose. This is What You Can Do About Your Health, a podcast about how you can make your body healthy, strong, fit, and inhospitable to disease. I'm Sean McClendon, your host. I'm a certified personal trainer, author, and health and fitness enthusiast. Thank you for joining me today. The information on this podcast is based on personal research, experience, and opinion, and is not meant to be a substitute for advice from a doctor or physician. You are advised to consult your doctor or physician before making any changes to your lifestyle. So we're going to go ahead and hop right into this podcast. I'm very excited to be talking about the topic for today. In a nutshell, I was thinking about something when I was doing my exercise this morning, and I was thinking about how whoever it is that so to speak, invented the concept of exercise is a genius. Um, and that sounds probably random, but the reason why I think about that is so. First of all, what is exercise? So exercise, I actually wrote my own definition earlier today. Um, I wrote that exercise is formally subjecting your body to certain movements to stress it above normal for a time. So, like, basically, instead of just kind of moving normally, it's like you are very intentionally moving your body for, I mean, by in doing so, you are stressing your body at a higher than normal level. Whatever your normal baseline is, you're stressing it at a higher than normal level, intentionally putting more stress on your body for a period of time, not forever, but for a period of time to essentially stimulate your body to adapt for the good, that is. So it's a good kind of stress that makes your body come back and do whatever kind of activity in a better way, in better fashion next time. Give it more ability, so to speak. So someone noticed that. Someone noticed, whenever XYZ happens, then my body improves. I'm able to do whatever activity better next time. Also, I feel better. I don't know if this was the first person I don't know who invented exercise. I'm just kind of like more so speculating and just kind of like thinking about it. But somebody noticed along the way that this stuff makes you feel better. It makes your body look different and in some ways look better. And that it's actually worth it to do exercise. And the reason why I say worth it is because think about this. When you exercise, when you intentionally move your body certain ways and add stress to it, add resistance to it, add pressure to your body, you are literally choosing to suffer in a sense. You're choosing to suffer. Now, of course, the thought I have is like, who in their right mind would actually choose to suffer? Who would bring on suffering upon themselves? But only somebody who realized that the benefit of such suffering outweighed the temporary discomfort. Okay, now that's a mouthful in and of itself. But somebody noticed that. Somebody was paying enough attention to life, enough attention to just the effects of movement, consistent movement over a period of time, to notice that formally subjecting yourself to the same movements again and again is actually a good way to improve the way your body works and your body's ability to do stuff. Okay. So that kind of brings me to another thought that I had this morning, which is if you really think about it, and it's like just the concept of, like resistance, pressure, like anything under pressure, anything that has a resistance, basically, it improves or it grows or whatever. So like we already know with exercise, when you strength train, that means when you like lift weights or you do something that kind of like puts additional stress on your muscles and bones, your muscles will get stronger. They will literally adapt such that they will be able to they'll come back stronger. You have more ability out of those same muscles. Those muscles can even come back larger as well. Bones also will improve in their density. They'll become stronger whenever they're subjected to resistance that is above normal. But it's not just the human body that responds this way, y'all. Even so if you're a gardener like I am, you know about you may know about starting seeds and whatnot. Let me give a little more water here. Like, for example, right now it's winter 2024. And at some point, you're gonna want to start some. You may want to start some seeds so that you can kind of get a head start on the year whenever spring really kind of starts to come. The thing is, if you start seeds on the inside of your house or your greenhouse or whatever, before you move them outside, of course, before it gets warm enough, when you start to move them outside, they're when they're seedlings, like little plants, they call that hardening. Whenever what you do is you don't take a seedling that's been inside for weeks and just put it outside in the elements. Because if you do, then there's a lot of stress put on that plant and it could actually kill it. It could or it could cause it to become like weak and diseased and whatnot. What you do is you put it outside for a little bit one day and you bring it back in. And you put it outside a little longer. And then you bring it in. You put it outside a little longer. And you kind of like get it accustomed by allowing it to experience the stress of being outside in the natural world more and more and more until it's kind of more so accustomed to how outside is. Then you take it and put it inside the ground, which that in and of itself is also a stressful event for a plant, to kind of be pulled out by the roots and then put inside the dirt because it has to establish the root system in that new environment. But you harden the seedlings before you just put them out there. At least if you're trying to really do it the right way, so to speak, a better way to increase the likelihood that your stuff will take when it's planted outside. But you just add stress to it gradually. Think about stuff like hurricane or tornadoes and hurricanes and stuff like that. Whenever they kind of come through and blow, a lot of times if it's a weak tree or something like that, then it'll blow over. A dead tree, something, it'll blow over. But the trees actually that have been blown a lot, it actually increases the strength of them. Like they endure maybe some level of, you know, pressure, trauma, whatever you want to call it, in the process of the storm blowing this way and that way. But like that actually initiates a process that helps that tree trunk to get stronger. And I forgot to mention something with the seedlings as well, which is that sometimes, you even encourage, if you have a plant on the inside, you're encouraged to like turn on a fan, like to gently blow your seedlings, because that'll help like the little stems to get stronger, so that once they go outside, they're not, just limp and everything. They've kind of had some pressure that's kind of like initiated some growth in that thing. So these are just like, if you just really pay attention to the way that the world works, pressure, resistance, just uncomfortability causes growth, or it brings about some sort of great thing. Even if you think about, the whole oyster with the pearl, or you think about, diamonds being created, like rock that's been subjected to a whole lot of pressure, and it creates this beautiful diamond that's like the toughest of all rocks. So it's like a principle that God has interwoven into creation. So think about that, and think about the fact that we live in a society that is very anti pressure, anti resistance, at least for the general public. Like, we often preach a message of convenience and comfort, and we discourage people from getting out of their comfort zones, at least on the general scale. I think about another thing, with gardening. When I learned about Victory Gardens, I learned about how, back then the public was encouraged to go out there and grow their own food so that the government could send food over to the soldiers who were fighting in the war. Whereas I remember when like the war and terror and all that kind of stuff was happening, and we were encouraged here to consume. We weren't encouraged to roll up our own sleeves and kind of join in the effort. We were actually encouraged to become more comfortable, just to buy more stuff, I guess, to stimulate the economy. But I'm saying that to say our culture is very anti pressure, anti resistance, always like making us think that what we want to do is move away from it, when in fact we want to move toward it. As weird and unsettling and negative as it might seem, that's what causes growth. That's what causes us to grow. And you can apply that a whole lot of different ways, as I'm sure you might be thinking about now. Of course, I'm talking about the concept of exercise right now, mainly, and even other health stuff. Um, so another thing with pressure and resistance, which again is just amazing to me thinking about, just the invention of exercise, is that pressure and resistance also show you what something is made of. For example, if you were to get underneath a weight, you're doing bench press or squats or something like that, and the weight is too much for you to lift, and you're not going to be able to come back up with it. Okay. And so it shows you, oh, I'm not there yet. So the key is actually for you to push something just before that point, not past the point per se, but just before that point, to kind of initiate an adaptation process that will allow you to come back and be able to do that thing better. That's just the beauty of exercise. Now, again, this is not the type of stuff we want to hear, because we're always in American culture, we're always wanting to choose the easy way out. That's why we have so many shortcuts in our society, for health related stuff. But like, if you really want to do this thing, then, one of the prices that you have to pay is being subjected to pressure, resistance. And that's going to activate these amazing mechanisms in the body that God has given us to adapt, to improve, to come back better the next time. So think about this. Just like I was saying before, too much pressure, too much resistance can actually cause something to break or fail or something like that. If you're lifting too much weight, then you might collapse underneath it, So be careful, by the way. But too little pressure, think about this. Too little resistance. And I'll say what I'm talking about when I say that is, for example, not moving your body, never doing anything with your body, always subjecting yourself to convenience. That can cause something to become weak. And that's what we have in our society. We're an easy way out kind of society, and we try to like avoid hard stuff. But what happens is, we think that just kind of feeling comfortable all the time is good for us or good for our bodies, but it's not at all. When you never use your body actually starts to deteriorate. You start to lose abilities. As long as you use what's there, like they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's just so true. As if you don't move your body at all, then your muscles deteriorate. You start to get bad posture. You start to, be hunched over. You start to lose efficiency in your heart and your lungs. So this whole convenience thing that we've promoted is just so detrimental. It's so detrimental, y'all. It's causing us to break our bodies down prematurely, causing us to age faster, die quicker. So on the subject of exercise, it's a couple of guys out there. It's several of them, but a couple of guys come to my mind: CT Fletcher and David Goggins. If you know, you know. CT. If for those of you who don't know, CT Fletcher he was like a power lifter. He owns a gym out in California. Why can't I remember what the name of his gym is? gym addicts, I want to say. But like, he's kind of known for having very colorful language and lifting real heavy weights and having really, really big muscles and having a whole lot of other guys, with real big muscles working out with him. And, he's cussing and telling everybody to lift, whatever, and commanding muscles to grow and all this kind of stuff. Like I said, if you know, you know. And, you know, a lot of people really like him. I think a lot of people really don't like him. And another guy who's kind of like in a who's he's not well, he's different, but kind of a similar kind of like hardcore mindset is David Goggins. So David Goggins is a former Navy SEAL. Again, if a lot of people know who David Goggins is. If you don't know, I'm telling you. So he's a former Navy SEAL who these days he's kind of known for like, kind of giving these quick motivational things while he's on his jogs. Very, very colorful language, a lot of profanity and whatnot. But he's very, very serious about challenging the body to very, very high levels, because of where he came from. He had a life that was filled with hardship. And he found a release by like really challenging himself to kind of break past stuff by like training for special operations in the military and not making it, but he kept on doing it until he succeeded. And he does ultra marathons, and I'm talking about like 200 plus miles. And again, like I said, very colorful language. He does a lot of cussing and stuff like that. Now a lot of people, but the reason why I mentioned both of these guys is because they've kind of popularized the idea of subjecting the body to an extreme amount of exercise. Um, and embracing that pain, embracing the resistance, embracing the pressure with enthusiasm, encouraging it, relishing in it even. And they're also known for having achieved very, very significant results with their approach. Very significant. So, in the context of what I'm talking about here, I'm not one to, maybe talk the same ways and whatnot, but what they talk about impresses me in that, especially, it does inspire you to see what the body is able to do. A lot of people cancel themselves out because their minds are in the wrong place, because their beliefs are wrong. They don't believe that they're able to achieve whatever health goals they have. I mean, fitness goals. They may not necessarily believe, they may be used to believing that all of their health outcomes are dependent on whatever the doctor can do for them. But these guys show what the body can do if you're willing to get your mind right and like really, really push. Now, I don't think the average person needs to do what they're doing. However, I do believe the average person can learn from them, because you have to understand this. Again, exercise is simply a way of you voluntarily subjecting your body to hardship for the sake of making yourself better. It's a tool that has essentially been given to us to allow ourselves to kind of like voluntarily subject ourselves to hardship. And here's the thing: if you try to avoid it by not doing anything, especially living in a society like ours, the truth is you're going to be subjected to hardship at some point, but it's going to be something that you don't choose. It's going to be a health problem or more than one health problem. It's going to be something that you have to do something about. And so that's the really cool thing about exercise. That exercise, and not just exercise, but also kind of like, stuff like fasting and other things I mentioned. There are ways that you can kind of like go ahead and head off a lot of different issues with your body by subjecting yourself to levels of discomfort that force your body to improve, that force your body to stay youthful, that force your body to stay flexible, that force your body to do better with activities than it's done before. So like, if you are not exercising, then you are really, really missing out. I promise you, you're missing out. You are scared to do it, but really, honestly, you should be scared to not do it. You should be scared to not engage in a variety of different things that would be uncomfortable for your body right now, but would produce a harvest of better health in the future. You should be. You should. Now, all of this stuff, and I've talked about this before, but all of this stuff is a part of what I've in recent years heard termed as hormesis. Hormesis, HORMESIS. And like I said, I've talked about this in the podcast, I believe, in the past. But the definition I saw that somebody had in a paper, a research paper, was that hormesis is an adaptive response of cells and organisms to a moderate, usually intermittent stress. And so exercise, that's kind of similar to how I define exercise. Exercise is a way, a method of inducing hormesis. It's a method of subjecting your body to a moderate stress. Again, not too high, but like enough to where your body, it initiates the adaptive process of your body. Fasting is a way to induce hormesis. Or in other words, fasting has a hormetic effect. Basically, as you know, fasting. Now, I'm not talking about, I mean, to some extent, the fasting, a lot of the partial fasting we do, which is what most of us do these days. But I'm talking about not eating anything, just drinking water. That type of fasting where it's severe caloric restriction for a period of time is actually good for your body. It actually increases, of course, we know about detoxification and whatnot. It causes your body to have to use its own fat stores. It actually kind of like it creates changes in the body that actually promote longevity. Fasting is a very powerful exercise in hormesis. Cold therapy, so cold showers, which I've talked about, or ice baths. I have not done that yet. Maybe in the future I will. I'm kind of scared of that, and I know a couple of people who have done it. But ice baths, where you get into a bath with ice, um, for some period of time, is another way. It induces a variety of good effects. It helps your blood circulation because all that blood leaves the surface of your body and then kind of goes more so towards your core. And then whenever you get out of that, it kind of comes back. So it helps to make those blood vessels more flexible. It helps you to feel awake. It helps your immune system. So many other things. But again, it's you choosing to subject yourself to discomfort now. It's antithetical to what we do as a society. So you have a choice to make. You have these tools at your disposal, and you may be kind of like kicking the can and not doing anything with them because, whatever fill in the blank excuse that you've been making. But these are extraordinary tools. The thing is, like I keep on saying, either way, you're going to have to endure some level of hardship. You just are. But this is something that you actually choose to do. And the benefits will be reaped, for years and years and decades in the future. If you actually make the choice to exercise, to fast, to practice cold therapy. And there's even warm therapy as well, Um, and there are other ways that you can practice hormesis too that I'm not going to get into now. But you have to do this stuff. Okay. And so now finally, I just want to end this podcast with this right here. So, like I said, exercise is just a really genius kind of thing. It's I just really appreciate the opportunity to exercise. But there was a time where exercise wasn't really thought of the way that it is now. Like even though it did exist, it probably was something that was more so done by isolated groups of people, like people who were engaged in athletics or people who were you know, military or something like that. Um so it was probably just reserved for people like that. But think about this though. During those times, these are times you're thinking, where, cars and a lot of these type of things didn't exist, where people actually had to walk around a whole lot. And, you know, instead of driving and all that kind of stuff. So exercise in that time period, those types of time periods, it will be icing on the cake. In other words, you're already moving your body normally and doing living with just bodily movement, but it's icing on the cake. It's extra. These days, all of our work is done mostly with our minds. And even those of us who work outside, a lot of times are using a lot of equipment where we're not moving either. A lot of times, farmers use a lot of big equipment that does all the work for them. And so we're just not moving now. So it's like exercise is one of those things that is really and truly required. Unless you have fashioned your life in such a way that you fit exercise in. Now, and I encourage that too. That's something I'm always kind of trying to figure out. But that said, if you are not using the extraordinary, wonderful tool of exercise, not only are you missing out, but you're also putting off hardship. Okay? Because if you live in a society like ours and here in the United States, and you live a traditional American lifestyle that includes a standard American diet, that includes being sedentary and just watching Netflix and all that stuff all the time and scrolling on your phone, then that's going to come back and it's going to cause hardship. It's going to cause a type of resistance that you don't choose. So choose your own resistance, okay? Exercise, and then also for that note, fast, practice cold therapy, do things that are going to make your body adapt in a good way. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. That'll conclude this episode of the podcast. My featured book for this episode. Let me see. So we'll say that my featured book for this episode, or not? No, we won't feature a book. I want y'all to join me in my webinars, man. I do webinars most Saturdays at 8:30 in the morning. So I'm gonna put a link to my webinars down there, and if you want to hear about any of my books, you can just kind of hear about them then. But there'll be some links in the show notes anyway. But join me on my webinars on Saturday mornings. We talk about a variety of health topics, and you get an opportunity to ask questions and share your experiences and whatnot. It's interactive and that type of thing. So join me, SeanMcClendon.com/webinars. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Feel free to leave a comment, share with a friend, all that type of thing. And also always remember, y'all, your doctor's not responsible for your health. You are. God bless you.